my fellow readers, I, Dark Symphony 777, with a fan fiction review. As always, a link to the store will be in the description below. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, click on that bell for notifications. Leave a comment in the comment section below on your thoughts on the story and any future fan fictions you want me to read or review. And finally, this story is my opinion. My opinion is not indicative of everyone in the world, so please respect that. So, we're going back to the good old classic days of fanfiction.net, all the way back in 2001. Yes, I know fanfiction.net was created in 1999, but yeah, there's that. Website's like 20 years old now. Hey, good for them. And we're going back to the Mushroom Kingdom. Mainly because whenever I get bored and I like no story to review, I just go back to like stuff I'm familiar with. Or stories that I read before and I want to do them again. I know Involutate will probably be like the next big one, because I can't wait to read that one. But that's still far away. I still got a couple other stories to do. So we're going to be reviewing the Luigi Adventures at Sea trilogy. It's written by N64. It is a trilogy of humor adventure stories starring everyone's favorite second banana, Luigi, because his name's in the title. Yeah. And honestly, this one's kind of a weird one in terms of how everything's written and everything, because while I will be reviewing the stories, the links in the description will lead towards the redone versions. Now, the reason I say that is because the author wrote two different versions of each story in the trilogy. One is more scripted in like a script format, while the other one is a more traditional prose format. And honestly, this was kind of, I didn't know how to do this one because I didn't know whether or not to review. I'll leave a link to the original, because I like the original more than the redone version because it's more humorous. And also, the bloopers at the end were actually hilarious. Or review, leave a link to the redone versions, because they're easier to read, they're actually easier to review, and stuff like that. And I think I'm getting a cold. I hope I'm not getting a cold. I always get colds. And stuff like that. So it's kind of weird which one should I review. I'm going to be reviewing the stories, but I decided to do the redone versions in the description because they're just easier to read. So let's get started. So the plot is actually kind of a weird one because they all center around Yoshi's Island. Basically, I'm going to talk about each story in the trilogy, and then I'm gonna combine everything in the other sections. So the plots of the first one is Mario and Luigi are bored. They're just bored. They're just wondering what to do. And Wario and Luigi are actually eavesdropping on them. Those dastards, Mario brothers. And they decide. Mario and Luigi decide, yeah, we're gonna play tennis. It's like, all right. And so Waluigi comes with this ingenious plan to murder Luigi by basically just tricking them to come to a tennis court in the middle of an ocean called the Waluigi Court. Whose picture of the court is Waluigi flipping the bird, which is actually kind of it's actually kind of a funny image if you think about it. Just the image of playing tennis on a court with Waluigi's face just giving you the middle finger. All the way, and you're watching from a top down. That'd be hilarious. So the plan is Mario and Luigi would lead Mario and Luigi to the middle of the ocean. We'll try to go through the ocean. They go to the tennis court in the middle of a raging storm to try and get Luigi lost at sea and have him drown or something like that. It works. Mario tries to save Luigi. Wario and Waluigi stop him, and then Luigi dies. Quotation marks on dies. Because he doesn't die, he ends up on Yoshi Island, where he meets this small group of Yoshis that are all named after the colors of. Like the pink one is named Pinky, the purple one is called Purpley, the black one is called Black. I'm not even lying. That's the actual name of the Yoshis. And so it kind of becomes a dual kind of story where Mario kind of represents the more adventurous type one. Where Mario's just, he's worried. He knows that Luigi's alive because And it's like, we gotta save Luigi. I know he's alive because I feel it. And so he goes, he just wanders around the Mushroom Kingdom looking for Luigi, while Luigi is just goofing off with the Yoshis and just playing tag and playing tic tac toe and get into a fight with Blackie because Blackie thinks he's better than everyone. It's like, I want to challenge you to a fight for leadership of the Yoshis. Yeah, it's the plot of that story is very simple. At the end, they find out why Luigi did it. Wario's like, I'm jerk, but I'm not like that. And so Wario helps Mario find Luigi. They manage to find him. And then they go home. Luigi says, "I'll visit you sometime." And then the next story takes place a year after the first story. Luigi is worried about the Yoshis. Him, Mario, Wario, and Waluigi. They decide to go to the Yoshi's Island. Wario's kind of still a jerk, but he's like, all right. And Waluigi's like, hey, I did evil stuff, but forgive me, Simple. However, they find out that a group of zookeepers called Nicky and Nicky, they're on the island because they want to actually save their zoo that they work at by capturing Yoshis and just doing stuff like that. It's very simple. Uh, uh, and then there's like a subplot where like Daisy's worried, it's like constantly leaving messages for Mario. And then there's another plot in that where they find out about they try and look for other Yoshis that went missing, and they manage to find them, and then they manage to stop the evil zookeepers. One zookeeper is like, I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to take care of animals, and so they did that. And the final story is Wart from Super Mario Brothers 2, well, not the unofficial Super Mario Brothers 2, which is the ripoff of the some Japanese game I can't remember the name of. He wanted revenge on Luigi for beating him in the events of that game, so he curses some of the Yoshis to turn into eggs. And so Yoshi, Mario, Wario, Waluigi, Pinky, Purpley, Yoshida, and Oshi, they go around the Mushroom Kingdom trying to look for the eggs and try and save them and save the Yoshis and stuff like that. That's the actual plot. Those are the plots of the three stories. I do like the idea of the stories of being connected to Yoshi's Island. I do think they're very simple. Like that's the overarching theme of all three of these stories. Very, very simple. Like it's not a brain scientist. Like especially since in the original it was all script writing, but in the redone versions, they're like you're turning script into prose. So it's not the easiest thing in the world, especially if you're not really used to doing that sort of thing, because just having to add unnecessarily add prose in a script writing is kind of wonky at first. You got to get used to it. I do think in terms of the plot, I do like all three stories plot. They're very simple, very very bland to be honest. They're not is good ideas, but the problem is coming from the pacing and everything. Not so much the pacing, but in pacing in terms of how long the stories are and the context of how everything moves. All the moving pieces kind of move very wonky. But I'll get to that when I get to pacing and stuff like that. Sorry about that. Characters. Yeah, Mario and Luigi, they're just Mario. Mario and Luigi, they act like brothers. They butt heads a lot. Uh, but they mean well. The Wario brothers, they're jerks. That's basically their main character. Jerk. Wario is a jerk with a heart of gold. He just, he still wants treasure. But he's like, hey, I'm cruel, but I'm not that cruel. And Waluigi, he basically like a defrosting guy. He's like, hey, like the first story, he wanted to kill Luigi because reasons. Well, over the course of and the second and third story, he kind of warmed up and said, "Hey, I want to help out. I'm going to help out. I'm to help out my brother Luigi." Wah, wah. So all four of those characters are very nice. Except again, the continuing theme of very simple but at least effective enough to I have no complaints about it. The Yoshis. The Yoshis are, for the most part, are there. The Yoshis are very, very bland for the most part. Let's see. There is Pinky. She's there. She's nice. She's like the team mom sort of thing of the Yoshis. That's fine. There's Purpley, who kind of has a crush on Luigi, kind of become kind of overprotective of him. It's something. There was Orangey, and who honestly was just there. Reddy, who was just there. Yolowy, who was just there. Blackie, he's kind of like team. He's like the stoic guy who's like kind of older than all of them, but he's like kind of like a stone faced Yoshi, where he's like kind of takes things seriously. He's not bad. He's probably the most at least best written of the Yoshis because he's the only one that actually gets character development of the Yoshis. And then there's Yoshida and Oshi. They're basically little Yoshi, baby Yoshi sort of thing. One's sea green and the other one's orange. Um, and they're just like the other Yoshis. They're just there. They do kind of become fully fleshed characters in the third story, but instead they kind of become facsimiles of Purpley and Pinky. So it's like they just become there. Just when Pinky and Purpley are out there, they're just there to make up the numbers. And then the characters, Silverstone from the second story, he's not bad. He's a mythical silver Yoshi. That's actually a pretty cool idea in theory. And the execution of him was actually done pretty decently enough in the time frame the story was presented with. Mini Bluey, he's just there. Whitey, she's just there. Like seriously, they're just there. Nikki and Ricky, the zookeepers. I like the fact they're more sympathetic villains. Like they're not really capturing Yoshis out of malice. They just want to keep their jobs. I like the whole illusion that they dress up as Jesse and James from Pokemon, like halfway through the story, and then they reveal that we were the voice actors of Jesse and James, making me wonder: one, why are you working as zookeepers, and two, does that make you Jesse or James? I know they're not really Jesse the voice actors because I actually got curious when I read it this time. It's like, wait, is that an actual joke or is she being serious? And I looked it up and said, no. It's like, the author got me on that one. And so I thought that was nice. Nikki saying, Vicky just gone, and I was like, okay, I just want to be with animals and protect them and heal them and stuff like that. So him kind of becoming a pet shop owner is kind of a neat thing. And I did like what they did. They were more sympathetic. Wart, he's boring. Mauser and Triclide, they're just there. Honestly, the problem with Wart is there's not really a lot done with him in terms of plot relevance. He just kind of shows up saying, "I curse you, Luigi! I'll get you next time," and then just runs off and then just cooks something up. The motivation of him being behind, just wanting revenge against Luigi for the events of Super Mario Bros. 2. Again, simple but effective. But I just think there should have been more done with him. Like, it should have at least been more active, or at least a bigger threat than just saying that. And finally, we get to Princess Amy. She's a weird one because on one hand, she's an author avatar. Like, she's basically an 64 chick in the story. Her character is just basically, she's a Luigi fan, she's a princess, she does a lot of stuff involving importing and exporting of her city of Aquapolis. And then her mom just says, just go with them because you're home, you just want to go on an adventure, stuff like that. But after that, she just does nothing. She's just in the background. At least, just do something. She's just there for exposition. She's there for like the fangirl moments, like when Luigi dressed up like a pimp. I'm not joking, that actually happened in the story. She actually faints and she starts twitching, and then blood just starts going out her nose, like typical pervert fashion. But there's nothing done with her outside of her just being a Luigi fan, and she doesn't really do much outside of her introductory chapters. Like, she's just, when you first meet her, she's a Luigi fan. She's Princess of Aquapolis. We have all the. She dresses like hippie. She has like a big, gigantic brown ponytail. I do like the idea that, unlike most author avatars, she stays in the background. But I think in the context of the story, if you're going to go out of the way to introduce a new character, even if it's an altered avatar. The least you could have done is done more with her. I do appreciate the fact that the author was humble enough to restrict her to the background, because a lot of authors who put themselves in the story, they have a very bad habit of making just having their character overshadow all the other characters. It happens a lot. It has happened a lot. It still will happen, and a lot of people don't like it. So I appreciate the fact that she thought, she wanted to err on the side of the caution and just restrict Amy to the kind of a background character, sort of a minor character that's just there to cheer up Luigi and offer encouragement, sort of like a cheerleader. Um, uh, it's not bad, but I really wish there could have been more done with her. That was my main problem with a lot of the characters in the story. There should have been a lot more done with the characters. And that's it. Grammar error. There's in the original there were a couple of grammar errors, but since I'm talking about the redone versions, I didn't see any grammar errors. And finally, we get so take that as you will. And then finally, pacing. Now, this is the problem I have with the story: is the fact that simplicity kind of completely backfires on the story. In terms of the second and third story, the pacing of all three stories, they're actually pretty fine. They're not bad. I mean, it's a little rushy, but for the more humorous parts, it actually fits because the author does have a real knack for comedic writing. So I'm guessing the speedy writing was more toward the more lent itself towards the more humoristic parts of the story, while but it kind of backfires in the second and third story. Let me explain. In the first story, it's literally just Luigi gets lost at sea. He finds a group of Yoshis. He becomes kind of like their clan members, and he becomes their leader, while Mario is just looking for Luigi. It's not a long story. Let's see, where is it? The retold version of the original story, I think it's only like around 16, 17,000, 18,000 words. And the original is 17. So it's not a long story at all. And the brevity of the pacing, like the very slightly rushed pacing, actually works in that story's favor, because it's fast enough that it's supposed to, again, giving that theme of simplicity, but effective, and giving the humor, and also and giving more time to give us the Fast and Furious humorous takes of Luigi's side of the story, but also at least speeding it up a lot for Mario stories to give us at least a little glimpse of what's to come. The problem with the pacing comes from the second and third stories. The pacing is fine for the second story, but the author is going for a slightly more complicated story, like with the zookeepers, and trying to find these Yoshi sitting in the mountains. It's very rushed. Again, it fits the more humoristic side of the story, because again, the author is very good with the humor, but it's not. But it's becoming apparent that the author is not really good at writing the adventure side of it. And this really becomes very bad in the third story, because now you're traveling all across these other islands. Like you're visiting Turbot Land, you're visiting the Bean Bean Kingdom, you're visiting Subcon, Aquapolis. Aquapolis got like a couple chapters to itself. Delfino Isle. You have all these islands, yet they're completely rushed through to they kind of give us a feel of what's going on around them. Again, that actually helped the humor story, because the humor is still very good, but it completely destroys the adventure side, because everything is so rushed that we don't really feel complete as on an adventure story. So it's kind of a weird difference, because the pacing fits the humor side. It does. But the second and third story in particular, the pacing completely just ruins the adventure half of the story. And I think that really needed to be that really needs to be fixed. I think that's probably the biggest problem I have with the second and third story is the adventure side of it is just so rushed that you don't feel anything out of it. You get like a lot of humor, very funny moments throughout all three stories, but it's all negated by the fact these are humor adventure stories. If it was a pure humor story and the second and third story, especially the third story, because the third story kind of didn't really have a lot of humor stuff at certain parts. If you kept the pacing but just leaned more towards humor, then I would actually be more forgiving towards it. But since it's humor adventure, I have to at least criticize the fact that the adventure is very skipped out on, very just completely neglected for the most part. And that's it with the pacing. Would I recommend this story? This one, if you're into if you really like comedy, I would recommend the story because the something that the original three stories had that the retold versions didn't were bloopers. At the end of each story, they would show a bunch of bloopers, just goofing off, just showing off the quirky humor of the author, and a lot of them are actually pretty funny. They still are actually pretty funny. Like, let me actually go to the first one. Luigi bloopers. Yep. So here's the first one. Let me just expand it. The first blooper is the very first scene when Wario and Luigi are walking up to the Mario Brothers house to challenge them to the phony tennis match. By the way, you watch the Weather Channel too much. At least I'm not a moron. At least I'm not stupid as you. You're so stupid that even the person who wrote the story hates you. Now get over here. And Wario just turns to the author and said, "Hey, chick, is that true?" And then cue the author just saying cut. Then Wario says, "Which one do you like better?" And then the author says, "Well, maybe this will answer your question," and smacks Wario with a clipboard. That's actually pretty funny. Like, if you're into the more humoristic side of writing, then I would recommend this. But if you're looking for something of an adventure, I would give this story a hard pass. Maybe read the first one because by itself, the first one isn't that bad. Sure, it's very fast, but at least the speedy pacing of it actually works to that story's advantage. In terms of the adventure being just a very simple adventure mixed with a lot of comedy. Favorite part, the bloopers. I mean, if you want like an actual part from the retold, probably the Delfino chapters because at least those ones were at least an attempt at having an actual adventure. So basically, Luigi and the gang they end up on Delfino. Okay, they're just wandering around not Delfino, Newport, uh, and they're wandering around, and then they come to the Newport casino run by the Pinata Mafia, and then the bouncer's like, "No plumbers allowed." And so it's like Luigi's like, "I got a plan," and so he leaves, and he comes back dressed like to nines, like a fancy tuxedo, no hat, slick back hair, stuff like that. And then the Pinata bouncer's like, "Who are you?" And he goes, "I am Luigi Mario, and I am." I actually laugh at that one because that's actually pretty funny. And then the Panata's like, "Wait, you're a pimp, but you don't have a hat." And then Luigi's like, "Well, the hat will just completely make things over the top. Pimp has to have standards." Like, oh. And I actually laughed at that part because that's actually pretty hilarious. Again, it shows that the author actually had a really good idea on how to write a humoristic side of the story, but had trouble writing the adventure side. So Luigi goes into the casino. He sees, this toad kind of being a swindler, scumbag, stuff like that. And then Lala, was it Lala or Pika? It was Pika, the cat-eared boo. Can't trust her, and then Luigi and him play a game referencing the mini game from Super Mario 64 DS. We know, like the picture poker. Luigi wins. The guy tells him what he wants. Nope. And then comes this big chase all along the Ruport area, the Thousand Year Door, stuff like that, where they go to different areas trying to look for Orangey, and then it actually ends with Luigi and Purpley in Poshley Heights. Luigi actually references that one mission from Thousand Year Door where the lady wants to meet Luigi and Mario's like wearing the Luigi badge and is like, hello. And then the lady just completely sees the real Luigi and freaks out. And so Luigi, as revenge, she picks her up and just throws her into the fountain. It's like, aha. And then we actually get a cameo from Nikki from the second story, and Nikki's like, "Hey, thank you for helping me out. Oh, I found this. I found the orange egg you're looking for. Here you go." And so like, it was a neat little. It was a neat little attempt. It was probably the closest thing we had to an actual adventure because of how many moving parts there were, and that's it. So, but if you want my honestly favorite parts of the story, it would definitely be the bloopers. Just look up the original stories, like the retold ones. Just go to the last chapter and just go wild, go ham. What would I change to the story? Honestly, there is a lot I would change. First off, I wouldn't really change anything for the first story specifically. That story can stay the same because it plays it fast and loose. It's long enough that it doesn't drag itself down because honestly, this was supposed to be a simple story. It's the second and third story that needs to be fixed. Second story, expand on Nikki and Vicky's characters, kind of have them do more stuff, like more than just hey, have them actually interact with the Yoshis more often. Have Nikki appear more sympathetic, while Vicky kind of going more angry and more mad and mad, as Luigi is constantly doing you can do that. Have uh, build more on the Yoshi mythos of the jewel tribes. Silverstone, you can work on his character a little bit. Develop Reddy, Orangey, and Yellowy because they're just there. They're literally there. Um, kind of have Nikki try and stop Vicky before he runs off, and just give it just honestly you just need to expand the story. Like you can keep the pacing as is, just expand the event, just expand it so that way it kind of we get more adventure feel to it. The third story, this story needs to be expanded like up the wazoo. Like you can keep again with the first and second story, keep pacing. Pacing's fine, but you need to give us at least have each chapter be its own arc. Like just have it be this monumental, gigantic arc of just they're trying to find each egg, and then stuff happen like in Paper Mario or Thousand Year Door, where it's an adventure contained in an arc, but served as an overarching story. Like you could have easily done that with each chapter. Like the first island they go to is Sarazar Land. Sarazar Land is, despite the fact the author says Sarazar Land is small, it's actually confirmed based on Nintendo sources that Sarazar Land is actually freaking big. It's actually gigantic compared to Mushroom Kingdom. Mushroom Kingdom, out of its Darkland, Mushroom Kingdom, and Sarazar Land. Mushroom Kingdom is actually the smallest. Sarazar Land is gigantic. You could easily do just a gigantic portion of the story just in Sarazar Land, just go into the Four Kingdoms and go and just trying to find each egg. Give us still keep it speedy. Have Warp be the villain. Kind of explain his motivations more. Give him some more henchmen. Like you could have easily done that. And finally, just make Amy K a main character. That really, I know why the author had to do her as she did, because he didn't want Amy to overshadow it and kind of go full on ham with her character and make her overshadow Luigi, because the king character is Luigi. But she just got shafted. I really would have liked to see more of her character. I do like the idea of her character being an exporter and importer. She could have served a lot in the story, but she got completely shafted to like the main background immediately after Aquapolis. Like honestly, you could have done a lot with Aquapolis in and of itself. Let's just leave it at that. An entire a big kingdom underneath the ocean. We don't really see that in Mario. We saw them going underwater a lot. We saw them going in space. But we never saw an underwater kingdom. That actually would be pretty cool to explore. Hell, I would have even liked an actual separate story just about Aquapolis. Like, not even with Luigi, just with Amy as the main character. That would actually be pretty cool because we get to expand on her character. We get to see what Aquapolis is like. There were so many ideas the author could have done with Aquapolis by itself. It just feels like it was completely shortchanged. Again, a lot of this comes down to the fact that the story needed to be longer. The pacing, fine. The characters, fine. Just needs to be longer. Like Luigi's event, the Eggtastic Adventure. That's like 50 some. That's like nearly 60,000 words. That needed to be at least 3 times as long, like near 200,000 words, if you want to get everything right with each island being its own arc. You needed to go full on this adventure, like because if the whole idea was kind of to like the first story being more humorous, but as the series goes on, we get more adventurous, and but you could have just went full ham with third story, just made it more just made it a full adventure, and you could honestly, my biggest problem with the third story is just pretty much the third story is just wasted opportunity. We actually could have gotten a really good story out of it. Instead, it's just short. It's just too short to really appreciate everything that's going on, except for the bloopers. The bloopers are pretty hilarious. So my thoughts of the trilogy. Honestly, wasted ideas. There was a lot of good ideas with the story, with the whole idea of the Jewel Tribe and Amy and Aquapolis. There was a lot of good ideas. The problem was the stories were just too short. If the stories were extended like a lot, the stories could have been good. I kid you not, the stories could have been good, if not great, if the adventure side of it was at least given more time to grow. We actually see the actual adventure step by step. Instead, we see a rushed down, bogged first and very basic. Like I said, it's worked in the first story. It worked. It worked perfectly because the story was supposed to be simple. It's just basically Mario looking for Luigi as the adventure side of it, and Luigi just goofing off. And that makes it hard to really quantify. And that's kind of why I didn't recommend the story because the second and third story are just way too short to kind of give us that sense of adventure. Because every part of the especially the third story. If this third story was longer, I would have tolerated the second story being as short as it was. But god dang, that third story had a lot of good ideas. It had a lot of good ideas. So that is my review of Luigi's Adventures at Sea. Next story I'm going to be doing is the Daria fanfiction recommended by Donna Olson. I will have to take at least a tiny little break, mainly so I can watch some episodes of that show. She told me to watch a couple episodes before doing the review, so we'll have to wait for me to actually watch a couple episodes before I even start reading the story. Who knows? So that is my thoughts of the story, of the trilogy. This has been Dark Symphony 777, and